All right. Welcome, MIS class, Lincoln College. I have a guest speaker here, David G. Lewis, who I've known for over a decade. I had a class with him at Heartland Community College, and he has his own business, and so I wanted to reach out and pick his brain about how he used management information systems and any other advice that he had for the students. So I'll hand it over to David to give a little intro of himself.
Andy, my good friend, and someone that you guys are lucky. You've got a individual that's always been ahead of the curve, and you guys uh, should be. Well, I know you're taking a class, but you should be honored to have a professor that not only cares about you, but's always seeking knowledge. And so, like I said, like Andy said in the intro, we've known each other for years, and I've taught, and it's kind of exciting to see him in a place that I used to be, and that's always fun. And he told me that this management information class, several of you are interested in starting your own business. And so what I'll ask Andy to do is start off with some questions, and I'll look at some of those questions. And as I answer those questions, I'll throw in some autobiographical stuff about me and what I do. And I think that will probably make it a lot easier for you to follow along.
That sounds good. So a couple, I'll just list some of the questions that we've gotten, David. So can you describe your business?
Okay.
Another one would be, did you go in as far as for this class with information systems? Did you go into it with an information system strategy, or did you figure it out as you went, just as you needed things? How has technology changed your profession over the years? And how important are things like social media strategy or presence with your career? And then what advice, information systems or otherwise, would you have for a new graduate looking to start a business?
Okay, well, hold on to the last question, because some of the other questions, they're a mouthful. And so I'll start off with those. And I understand that students will be watching this, so I'll try to make it as exciting and as informative as possible. I started everything's interesting. You've got to, if you're going to start your own business, most people that start their own businesses, they don't wake up one day and get out of bed and go, oh, I'm going to start my own business. You end up starting your own business because somewhere along the line, you figured out that you could build a better mousetrap. What that means is I ended up I've got an educational consulting business. And so basically what I do in my business, I help people to solve problems. And so you might ask yourself, well, what problems do you help people to solve? Well, it depends on the business, and some people go, well, are you in your description, or when people introduce me, they'll say, you're a motivational speaker? And I go, well, not exactly, because motivation is like a drug. And if I motivate you on Monday, I've got to come back and do it on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So I like to think of myself as an inspirational speaker that inspire people to motivate themselves. And so people go, oh, that's kind of cool. And it is. So, but the question then begs, well, how do you make a living doing that? Ha. Because if you're going to have a business, you need to have a product or a service. So what I've done for decades now is I have helped organizations to motivate, not necessarily motivate, but train their employees to be more effective. So hopefully that makes sense. So if you've got an employee, so say for instance, you've got an employee, and the employee comes into work late 4 out of 5 days in a week. Well, you've got two options. Well, you probably have more than two. One, you could fire them. Two, you can train them. Or three, you can do a combination, put them on probation, and hopefully you give them some set goals, and they meet those goals, and then they either become a better employee or they leave. Companies have figured out that it's cheaper long term to train employees and help employees to be better employees than firing people and getting new employees. So that's literally what I do. You go into a company and I assess their issues or whatever their concerns are, because every company starts off with an end in mind. So if you are a gadget company and last year you made 3,000 gadgets, then this year, the next year, you might want to make 4,000. And the question is, how do you go from 3,000 gadgets to 4,000? That's where I usually come in. And so my job is to come in and train, motivate, bribe, or however you want to call it, those employees to get from 3,000 to 4,000. So hopefully that makes sense. So yeah. So the question would then be, how do you do it? And how does information technology, how did that come into play? Well, I started my business back in July of 1997. So I've been doing this for a long time. And do I do today what I did in 1997? Absolutely not. I started, and I'm not going to go into a long drawn out description of how I got started, but I didn't, like I said, I didn't wake up one morning. I started off, I was doing Toastmasters and went all the way to the international final in the Toastmasters speech contest. And as a finalist, I got exposed to thousands of people, and people would then call me to come out to groups and speak at their Toastmaster clubs and so forth and so on. And so I had a background in training while I was an educator. So I would teach students how to write papers, how to become better students by utilizing technology, and how to do things like how to write a better paper, and all of those skills that you guys are currently using now. Along the way, technology has been improved to help you to be a better student. For example, when I was in school, you sat down, you went to the library, and you pulled a bunch of books down. You looked in those books, you looked in the bibliography of an article, you went and you found all those books. You'd be sitting there with 10 or 20 books, and you'd have to read the book, go to a chapter, page, you get the information, and that's how you'd write a paper. 20, 30 years later, you sit at the computer and you get on Wikipedia, and that's how you do, that's your source, that's information technology being used to help you to be more efficient. So with the training background and the speaking background, companies would bring me in to speak at conferences. And so I would do topics like how to deal with difficult clients. And so I used to joke and tell people I help people get a checkup from the neck up. And so from a technological perspective, over the years, that business has changed. When I first started, you travel, in 52 weeks of a year, you might be on the road 30 weeks, and everywhere you went, you traveled and you spoke at a conference. So I may do a keynote, there may be, 150, 200 people at that keynote luncheon, and then you would do breakout sessions. Well, think about it. If there was 150 people at lunch, and then there was a breakout session with 50 people, that means I've touched 200 people in one day, which is great. But of those 200 people that I was in front of in one day, let's say I only connected with 1%. So you're talking about that's 20 people. And so how efficient were you? So as times change, the first thing I noticed in my business was from an information technology perspective, then companies started asking, could they tape me? And they would actually literally tape, record the actual presentation, and then use it for the other 200-300 people that was at the company. Now, that was great for the company, not so good for me, because they may have paid me to do what I do once, but then they were utilizing my services unlimited access to me after the presentation. So that created a problem. And so, that problem is not a problem that was a hard one to deal with, but then, but you still had to figure out, how do I deal with it? For instance, I mean, if you were a plumber and you came in and you fixed an individual's pipes, and you charged them $100 to fix that pipe, and they could video you and see exactly what you did. The next time they had a similar problem, they can fix it themselves. And it wouldn't cost them a penny, and you'd lose out that $100. So that's, YouTube. That's information technology. So I had to change with the rising tide. So my business over the years, it's morphed, because people just started doing things differently. Like this class. I mean, you don't have to see Andy every day. This is a class that you're doing online. And, fast forward to 2020. With our shutdown, it's totally changed my business. At the beginning of this year, I had, after February, I had people calling me in February, canceling conference appearances in October, because they knew that we were going to have a shutdown. And we did. And so the question then begs, well, what are you doing this shutdown? Well, simple. Everything then, technology. So now everybody's using what? Zoom. And so,
yep.
So the question is, well, do people pay you to present on Zoom? Yes, they do. Now, I haven't mastered the Zoom technology like a lot of my other colleagues have, but I have participated in workshops where everything's done on Zoom. You can have breakout sessions. I mean, very interactive, but it takes a different skill set. So let's go back to the original question was, has technology or how technology affected my business? It's affected it tenfold. It's affected it, and so if you're going to go into a business today, you have to ask yourself, how long will this business model last? Number one. And number two, am I prepared to change when society changes, and what provisions are you making on day one to help you with that change? Because it's inevitable. The only thing that's constant in the world in which we're living in is change. So hopefully I've touched on a couple of those.
That was amazing. How I think you hit every question in that response. So that was really cool. Yes. So one thing, because I searched your name because I was trying to look up the bio to introduce you.
Okay.
You're all over the place. Was that a search engine optimization like strategy, or did that just happen?
No, I mean, that's a great question, because what you'll see there is there are people that have created businesses. So, and well, let me give you a quote, and this quote it'll help somebody. Some of you, many of your students that will listen to this, hopefully they'll listen to it, but they may have never heard of a guy by the name of Zig Ziglar. And Zig Ziglar, I mean, and Ziglar.
I have his book here, actually.
Okay, there you go.
Yes.
See, students, and he and I did not plan this. That's why when I told you guys earlier how blessed you were to have Andy as a professor, that's why. I mean, that's just why. This is a guy who is, always seeking knowledge. And Zig Ziglar I've had the opportunity to meet and talk and work with Zig. And Zig, years ago, because he's deceased, he's been gone, I don't know, a couple of years now. And when you meet Zig, he's such an ordinary, down-to-earth kind of guy. And one of my first questions upon meeting him, and after I got to know him, I said, Zig, what's the key to success? And I'm going to get back to your question, but I just want to throw this in here. And Zig said, David, this is the key to success. He goes, The key to success is this. Your key to success is you will be, okay, I got to make sure that I get this right because I hadn't even thought about using this quote, but it's one that I use all the time, so I don't want to butcher it. Your success in life will be in direct proportion to the number of people that you help to be successful. Let me repeat that. Your success in life will be in direct proportion to the number of people you help to be successful. If I were to ask you right now who's the richest person on the planet, many of you will say Bill Gates. And if he's not number one, he's one or two, he's in the top 5. Do you know why Bill Gates is so successful? He's successful because he's made a million millionaires. Think about it. Every single day we wake up, we are utilizing his invention and his technology. And so his invention has helped numerous people to become millionaires. And in so doing, he's got more money than you could ever even dream of. So Zig used to say to me, if you're not successful, David, it's because you're not helping other people to be successful. So as you decide to get into a business, your business model should simply be, our business, whatever it is to help other people to be successful. And if you can demonstratively explain to people how they can be successful, then you too will be successful. That being said, you talk about the looking me up in the search engine. Well, there are people who have created companies to help people to position themselves in a search. Because when you look up, if you look up speaker, and you can try this, so you look up garbage man or plumber, you want your business listed. It needs to be an optimal place that people can find you. And that's a business. So say, for instance, you are really good with computers. You can start a business, and your business, this is just off the top of my head, but think about it. You could have a business and it says, the Find Me Guy. And what does that mean, the Find Me Guy? Your business could be, if you want to be found, I can help you to be found. And you could use that optimization, because I'm not a tech guy, but I do know that when you do a search, you want to be able to find somebody. And if you can learn how to get people, put them in a position to be found on the internet, could that possibly help somebody to be successful? Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
So that's a business. And so along the way, I've used other businesses. I farmed out those things because, like I said, I don't know anything about it. And so I've had people along the way that have used their services to do all that stuff.
So I'll ask this then. It sounds like you did Toastmasters, which I'm a competent communicator. I did 10 speeches, so I'm a competent communicator. I have not competed, but so that's a great program. I encourage anyone.
Absolutely.
So you did that, you competed, and then you were approached, and so this has kind of happened.
Yes, it's kind of evolved.
And so so as far as like a tech strategy, and this is kind of something that I want to get across to students, is like, you don't have to know exactly what you're doing. You just figure it out.
Look, it's kind of like a parent. You're a parent. Nobody starts off being a parent with a playbook. You got to feed them. You got to feed them. You got to provide shelter, love, and support. But no one tells you how to do it. You just kind of learn as you go. And that's why so many people cannot start and operate their own business. If you are someone who is a high stress, high anxiety type of person, and you got to have a check coming in every 2 weeks, then you need to go work for someone. I mean, everything that looks good to you isn't good for you, and owning your own business can be a pain. And along the way, I've owned my own business, but I've been a hybrid business owner because I've done things along the way like taught. I taught for like 16 years, and that was in conjunction with my business because my business did not always support 100% of the income that I needed. So that's why you do other things. So you've got to be flexible, and a part of that flexibility. There have been times where I've worked for other companies that all they've done is provided training, and I've provided their table box training, if you will, and that's what I've done. So you're right. You don't necessarily know from day one what your plan is.
That's awesome. All right, that is great, because it's hard to, with this class, it's hard to say what people should do with their management information systems strategy for whatever business they want to do. And I think it's just the point of, you'll have things that happen and you just figure out, like you with Zoom, this kind of bomb blew up this year and you're just adjusting to it. And
listen, not only that, you've always got to be looking. Look at the company Zoom. Zoom a year ago, Zoom was trading at $74 a year ago. I just looked this up yesterday. Zoom was trading $74.81. Zoom right now is, as of yesterday when I looked it up, $430.84 a share. That
wow.
it's quadrupled. And hear me clearly, when this business came into play, there was no such thing in the business plan as a pandemic. They did not go to a bank and go, hey, look, we anticipate the COVID-19 pandemic is going to kick in March of 2020, and it's going to turn our stocks, it's going to throw our stocks into the stratosphere. A business analyst said about Zoom that Zoom is the second coming, literally the second coming. That's just how big it is. It's $430 a share today, anticipated on going up to $611.
That's awesome. And I will note, I am not endorsing any stock tips from David Lewis. So if you invest everything in Lewis,
there you go. But here's the important thing. It's not so much stock tips as much as being aware of the trends. And so I say that to say, okay, no one's telling you to go out and buy stocks, but what you should be doing is, how can I hitch my technology wagon to that wagon? I mean, what can I do to benefit from this? Because a year ago, November, we weren't using Zoom. Yeah. How many of us were using Zoom?
Yeah.
We just went, and a year later, Zoom, there's very few people that don't know what Zoom is. And just like we know what Zoom is today, what's the technology or what's the trend going to be like in another year?
We're going to have Minority Report monitors like in the movie where everything is visual. It's going to be nuts.
It's going to and the key to your students listening to this, they should be excited. I mean, to be in the information technology realm today, man, the potential is just unlimited. Somebody who's in this class is going to, there's no doubt in my mind, they can be that person that says, wow, what about, or why not? Those are the questions that oftentimes lead to unparalleled success. What about this? How about that? And literally, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just got to make a better wheel. You just got to make it a little bit more efficient. Yeah. And that's where I think that the future's going, in terms of students, being on the cutting edge, just not being afraid.
That's awesome. Well, you've hit all the questions I have. I thought of one just as an interesting question about what you do on my own just now. So everyone working from home, if you're kind of consulting on employee problems that come up, right?
Right.
So with everyone working from home, I mean, it seems like a huge, you can't really monitor what people do with, you're not in the office. You got people at home taking a nap or, or
Well,
doing.
see, that's where your students come in. Companies have become extremely efficient at monitoring people's work from home. They've got metrics. And so all of a sudden, all the information technology people or the people in that industry, now they've got to be able to justify what these employees are doing. I had a client a couple months ago, and I think it's safe to, there's no confidentiality issue, but CDC, Center for Disease Control in Atlanta, and these were their managers. And a part of their training was how to motivate employees during a pandemic. And some companies have had unbridled success during this pandemic. Other companies haven't. For instance, I mean, if you've got a restaurant and your restaurant's closed, then it's closed. There's not much, you can't motivate someone who just lost their job due to a government shutdown. But there are other businesses that are functioning. Like, how do you motivate that person working at home? How do you keep them tuned in? How do you provide training and provide the necessary resources to keep these folks plugged in? Zoom meetings. I don't have all the answers because that's still part of the growing process, but that's a major concern with companies is, man, how do we keep people motivated? And what you're seeing is a lot of companies have found out that their employees are being more productive working from home.
Yeah.
Because they're in the comfort of their own home, and they just feel more comfortable. So it's a catch-22.
Yeah, you were in the Army.
Yeah.
I'm in the National Guard still in the Air Force, and we're doing virtual drills.
I remember that.
Virtual drills, I never thought it would ever happen, but we're doing. So you have like computer-based training, and it's that we had originally. We've always had those, but now we just do those on these virtual drills, and it's just a whole new. It's a whole new ball game. So
and you know as well as I do, if you're putting together an M16, doing it virtually is not the same as doing it in person. Granted, I mean, I'm not being disingenuous in saying that, oh, this is great. I remember when I taught at Heartland many years ago, and I remember when they started having hybrid classes, and I hated it because it just wasn't my skill set to talk into a recorder and have people listen to it. It's like, I don't want to listen to me, so I know students don't want to listen to me, taping things. But what I found out is, you have to have a different mindset. The mindset isn't the training online and not being able to actually connect with people. The bottom line is, you want to make yourself as marketable as possible to your employer. So the reality of it is, the where we've gone today, we clearly don't need brick and mortar businesses like we did in the past. That being said, if there were 10 people working at your company, the new technology clearly is going to eliminate 3 of those 10 people. You don't want to be one of the 3. So
Yeah.
That's been my approach as I talk to people in this particular time frame. You want to have as many transferable skills as possible to make yourself irreplaceable to your particular employer or to your particular industry. That's why you've got to consistently remain in the hunt for knowledge. That's why you guys are in school. That's why, we're given, and, if you take a class like this, and this class isn't going to tell you how to, it's going to give you the question that you should be asking yourself is why? Why? And how to make a better mousetrap, so to speak.
Well, that is awesome. I think, after we disconnect, I'll probably think of 50 things to ask you. But
hey, man, call me, text me, whatever, because it's, as depressing as this year has been, it's also been exciting. And you've always, I've always been the glass is half full as opposed to half empty. And I mean, it's been a challenging year, no doubt. And as such, it's taught me that you never arrive, and you're always learning, and you're always evolving. And I've done a million different things. And last summer, I saw this coming on the horizon where training was changing, and people were doing things differently. They were doing video conferencing, Zoom calls. And so I said, okay, what's my next challenge? And so I went out and got my appraiser's license in the insurance field as an appraiser, licensed appraiser. And voila, we've had tornadoes and things across the country, and that's a whole new world. And that's a world that I can now speak to and do training in and actually do the work because I'm licensed that I hadn't thought about before. But had I not gotten that license, that credibility in terms of training from that particular perspective wouldn't be there. So you've always got to be looking, and you've always got to be open. And remember, your success in life is in direct proportion to the number of people you help to be successful in any industry.
That's awesome. That's great. I really appreciate it, David. You're one of the handful of professors I really remember.
Thank you.
So that's partly why I'm doing this. I was looking up, trying to find your CV. You were Professor of the Year in 2006 at Heartland. So
yeah.
That was 1 year before I was there, so I got the lesser product, I guess. But,
yeah. Let me tell you,
awesome.
I thank you, Andy, and and this is, and I hope your students are still listening, but you are the reason that those things and all those accolades are just accolades, and we all love to get them. But when I look at you and see what you're doing, it's like, man, I get warm and fuzzy because you're taking it to a whole another generation. And it's like my wife always reminded me, I'm not half the man I used to be, but heck, with Andy in my corner, I'll be okay.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. After the pandemic's over, I'll buy you a drink sometime.
And look, I would absolutely love it. Would love to get together. And you tell those students that I said, take care of you because you're definitely taking care of them.
All right. Thank you.
All righty. Take care.